Welcome to Zai Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in today's headlines, Tzu Chi volunteers are holding a winter aid distribution at an elementary school in Tembisa, South Africa. Continuing on our featured reports on taking the sadness away, we meet a wildlife sound recorder, Sun Ching Song, who overcomes the loss of his wife through collecting birds' calls. And in Taiwan's Taichung, we meet Lai Zhenxiang, a craftsman with over 50 years of experience in origami. In South Africa, winter aid distribution was held in an elementary school in Tembisa. Tzu Chi volunteers not only brought basic necessity, but also booked donations from the United States. Many residents are poor due to a lack of education, which is why the book donations were so well received by the residents, who sees it as the first step out of the cycle of poverty.
In the remote town of Tembisa, north of Johannesburg, South Africa, Tzu Chi volunteers are distributing winter relief items to residents. The children celebrate with a dance. This winter distribution includes rice from Taiwan, books from the United States, and recycled blankets from Tzu Chi. It is love from around the world.
Thank you, Master Shaiwan, for the rice and the blanket that you send it in you too. Then we're busy helping some poor people. Here's the little children here. They stand in front of me because they are so happy. They are so excited because they're going to get rice and a blanket and a book. Thank you for that.
Contained within each book given is the gift of knowledge. Each winter relief package contains not only clothes and shoes, but also love from Tzu Chi volunteers. Excited, the youngsters wrap the blankets around themselves immediately. Everyone is all smiles as they carry their winter distribution home.
Also providing aid to the needy, for the past 14 years, New York's Tzu Chi Chinatown Liaison Office in the United States have provided hot meal services every Saturday for the needy in their community. Taking turns once a month to help, the Tzu Chings are in charge of preparing the meals, including buying ingredients and cooking the food. At this month's hot meal services, many Tzu Shaos were also on site to offer their help.
With the need to prepare 200 meals early in the morning, New York Tzu Chi volunteers are already busy working inside the kitchen. Tzu Shaos sweep the entrance floor in hopes of giving their guests a warm welcome. Tzu Shaos not only sing and dance for senior residents, but are also friendly and respectful towards the elderly people. The young volunteers' presence lighted up all the senior residents.
Every time I come for lunch in this liaison office, I feel much respected.
Once a month, the Tzu Chings are in charge of buying the ingredients and cooking the meals. This time, they are also preparing something special.
Today we're using our special instant rice, which is normally used for international relief. Hopefully they'll like it.
Accompanied by the volunteers, all the elderly people are having a lot of fun and cannot stop smiling.
I feel very happy. After dancing and exercising, I feel really comfortable. Tzu Chi is great in helping alleviate the sufferings.
Senior residents and volunteers, young and old, are all coming together to pray for a world free of disasters.
Guo Ruihua, a teacher in Jiayi, Taiwan, was also part of Tzu Chi Teachers Association. She passed away due to ovarian cancer and decided to become a silent mentor. In fulfilling her mother's wishes, Su Yanru accompanied her mother's body to Tzu Chi University. And under the guidance of Jingsi Abode masters, Tzu Chi volunteers all wish teacher Guo a fond farewell and hope that she continues to walk on the Tzu Chi path.
Taking one last look, Su Yanru says a final farewell to her mother, Guo Ruihua, age 67. The deceased was a member of Tzu Chi Teachers Association. And true to her calling, teacher Guo has decided to become a silent mentor.
When my mother told me she wanted to donate her body, I understood that she didn't want to burden our small family after she passed away.
A simple funeral, under the blessings of Jingsi Abode Master, seems elegant and meaningful and fulfills the wishes of Guo Ruihua.
She's a teacher, so she feels that education is important. So after she passed away, she still wanted to contribute to the education field.
Guo Ruihua will become the 267th silent mentor as she continues to educate students, even in death.
In Malaysia, for many dialysis patients, medical bills are always a big burden. To help, in 2002, the Tzu Chi Dialysis Center in Butterworth was established. Since then, many needy patients were able to undergo dialysis treatments free of charge. To maintain the dialysis center, a third of its funding comes from recycling. And to reciprocate Tzu Chi's love, dialysis patients form a recycling group to help with the recycling work. To reciprocate Tzu Chi's love, since 2012, patients of Tzu Chi Dialysis Center in Butterworth, Malaysia started a recycling group.
The purpose of forming the recycling group is to give dialysis patients and their families a chance to give.
To be able to give, happiness and smiles are shown on the faces of patients and their families.
I'm very happy to be able to volunteer at the recycling station. My husband gets his dialysis treatment from Tzu Chi free of charge, so I want to give back.
Mr. Chen, who has worked at a recycling company for more than 10 years, says he is very touched by the dialysis patients and joins them in recycling.
I'm very moved by their gestures. They are sick, but they do their best to give. I think this is a very meaningful thing to do, and we should learn from them.
At the end of the day, dialysis patients and families put the recyclables onto the truck, and they promise to continue the good work in the years to come. Whether it is losing a loved one to suicide, illness, or to natural disaster, it is never easy to overcome the loss and may take a few months or years before one is able to return to normalcy. In today's series of feature reports on taking the sadness away, we meet a wildlife sound recorder, Sun Qing-song, who lost his wife to the 9/21 earthquake in 1999 and was unable to come to terms with her death. Through his passion to research and collecting birds' calls, the widower saw how these little creatures faced disaster with courage and bravery and was inspired to rebuild his home.
We had a dream where we would find a quiet place, a place with birds, so I can do my research, and my wife would look after the family. The new house sits on top of where our old house is. We have reconstructed our home on the same place. Our old house was built with bricks, so it was different to one built in metal and concrete. Being a half-century old, it wasn't able to withstand the tremors and was flattened.
The only part of the house that was not destroyed was this wooden hut in the backyard.
This study room holds a very special place inside my heart. It is a record of history for our future generation, so that they may remember what has happened.
让他们也能够记住当时的一个状况。转眼生死两茫茫，不思量，自难忘。寂寂孤坟，无处话凄凉。夜来幽梦忽还乡，小轩窗，正梳妆，相对无言，唯有泪千行。在这里已经摆了12年了。
A wildlife sound recorder, Sun Qing-song lost his wife to the 9/21 earthquake. To many others, the tremor may just be a part of history, but to Sun, what happened that night will forever stay with him.
情境，他一定会。
Scenes of what happened that night keeps coming back to me, and when it does, my emotions go back to that moment of when the quake is happening. From sleeping to working, you could basically say I was like a dead body walking, never getting any quality sleep.
就是睡不安枕。
A destroyed house can be rebuilt, but a broken heart takes time to heal, and it was Sun Qing-song's passion for birds that helped him overcome his loss.
那个花还没有盛。
I didn't want to do anything else that's not related to birds. Luckily and slowly, I started my research again. I started having the appetite to eat and wanted 3 meals a day. And slowly, my life returned to normalcy.
我的就是沉落这样的一个谷底，那慢慢的，有动。 有时候他会回应，在这个山头上，有一种叫绿鸠。
On this side of the mountain, there's a type of bird called the green pigeon. The sound it makes is similar to Tarzan. They make that sound to call their partners.
It is the chirping sound of these little creatures that accompanied Sun through his time of despair, and it is also these birds that gave the bereaved man the strength to go on.
台风来的时候，会把它们的巢，吹落。
When a typhoon comes, it will blow their nests away, and the eggs will fall out. Some bird parents take a few weeks, while others will only take a few days to rebuild their nests and start breeding again.
天内，它就很快的就再度繁殖。
Realizing that these birds share the same fate as himself, yet they courageously find the strength to go on, inspired Sun to pick up his interest once again. The man also decided to rebuild his home with his children. Finding new purpose and value to life through nature, today Sun Qing-song works even harder to collect bird calls. Sun hopes that through his work to help others appreciate these little creatures and thus pursue the dream that he and his wife were unable to realize.
In our next report on Taiwan sensei industry, we travel to Taichung to meet Lai Zhenxiang, a craftsman with over 50 years of experience in the art of paper folding, also known as origami. In the years of mastering his art, Lai has come to a deep understanding of the human experience and has tried to manifest this understanding in his works. Let's take a look.
What we call the three radicals are in fact 90 degrees, 60 degrees, and 30 degrees.
Though it sounds like math, what Master Lai is talking about is actually the foundation of origami. When young, Master Lai was always playing with paper shapes, an interest that was to continue for the rest of his life. One piece of paper can be turned into a buffalo or a woman. Add another piece and you'll get shapes that delight and makes audiences reflect in various ways.
Every fold is final. There are no redos. If you are not precise in the fold, the whole thing comes apart, and you need to start from scratch otherwise. When folding the second line, it won't be able to stand up like this.
Every piece that Master Lai makes starts from a square piece of paper. Unlike the art of paper cutting, his pieces are three-dimensional. And behind the creativity of every piece is an adherence to mathematical and scientific principles.
This is only a piece of paper. This is called 7 ounces defeat 500 kg. It is simple force mechanics. You see, even if we add more objects on top, it can still handle the weight.
Through constant reflection and practice, Master Lai has come to grips with the incense of religion and established his personal philosophy.
The middle figure is a bit shorter than the one above it, and much taller than the one below it. The difference in colors, light or dark, express that, as humans, we should never forget that we are not as superior or powerful as we think.
Many international or local museums, exhibitions, and individuals have wanted to purchase these pieces. However, Master Lai doesn't sell his artworks, but only lends them to collections.
I worked on this for a year and a half. When I went to Iran's National Center for Traditional Arts, they put it in their permanent collection. It was really hard for me to let it go, because it was like a child that took me a year and a half of my life to produce, and now someone else is raising it.
For Lai, every piece of work is like giving birth to a new child. To aid him in his work, Master Lai has specially designed each of his tools, his scissors, his wooden pen and ruler. He says that his art stands at the intersection of artistic talent and technical skill. And after 50 years in the field, he has this to say.
Origami can settle the heart, using both skillful hands and intelligence, as well as various paper folding techniques. Over time, I have been able to understand the wisdom and philosophy of life.
Summer vacation is always the happiest time for students because they don't have to go to school. However, in Taiwan, 25 students from Tzu Chi College of Technology decided to donate their vacations to volunteer in Malaysia. Recently, they visited 5 different Tzu Chi kindergartens as educational volunteers. During their visit, they also designed a Jingsi Afrozen class for the kindergarteners and said that they learned a lot from the trip. To welcome their 5 big sisters from Taiwan, students from Tzu Chi Kindergarten in Johor Bahru put on a sign language performance. Even though these sisters are not from a teaching background, they still tried their best to accompany the children.
The kindergarten teachers have good ways to deal with their students. For example, when a teacher says, "More sugar," then the students will say and stop talking. This is another way to manage the class.
The teachers focus on providing students with hands-on experience. Sometimes we want to do something for the children. The teacher will tell us we should let them try by themselves. I think this is a great way to educate the kindergartners.
Along with accompanying the students, the 5 Big Sisters also designed a Jingci aphorism class. They even went on a field trip with the children to the Kite Museum and experienced the differences in culture.
In the future, when we work in the hospital, it is all about teamwork. The senior students used to tell us that it is important that we help each other. This time, when we travel together performing the children's play, we learn to help each other out.
I think it is great that we got the chance to travel and experience the differences in race and faith. We discover that each culture is different and they all do things differently.
Through a trip to Malaysia, the youngsters not only learned to volunteer, but also enriched their lives by experiencing the differences in culture. Since 1997, Tzu Chi volunteers have been spreading the word about recycling in Klang, Malaysia. Over these past 15 years, the amount recycled has grown from 40,000 to 500,000 kilograms. The results have deeply moved government officials, so this year, the Division of Environmental Protection for Youth and Sports of Malaysia applied to give Tzu Chi a property to establish a recycling center. The opening ceremony on July 8 attracted nearly 200 residents.
It's our recycling station opening ceremony. Please bring us your paper and aluminium cans for recycling.
Flyers in hand, Tzu Chi volunteers are inviting Klang residents to the opening of Malaysia's newly established recycling center. Klang Tzu Chi volunteers have been supporting recycling for the past 15 years. Seeing the results, the Division of Environmental Protection for Youth and Sports applied to the Malaysia government to use the property as a Tzu Chi recycling center. This is the first time in Malaysia that public and private sectors are working together on a conservation center.
Cologne Tzu Chi volunteers have been recycling for 15 years. The result is one of that everyone can see and approves of.
We are here to actualize a Tzu Chi dream, a dream that Klang residents can finally establish a recycling center in such a great location.
Around 200 residents witnessed the opening of the Klang recycling station on July 8th. This historic moment has been years in the making.
I aim to help out everything that I can for the good of the community.
I'm happy that residents and the government can work harmoniously together. We can keep this country clean by recycling and also helping out others.
This recycling center will no doubt attract more residents to recycle and do their part in conservation.
At the end of the show, we stay in Malaysia, where Tzu Chi volunteers are holding the annual Parent and Child Sports Day. Different to before, this time several workstations were set up. Through a series of activities, students and parents learn about Tzu Chi's values and the importance of teamwork. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for watching Dai Headlines. Goodbye.